Now, in government cut, the water's 40 to 45 feet deep. And to make it easy for our customers to know how far to let their line down, on all of our bait rods, we tie a bimini twist and a Yucatan knot, and then we put on a 15-foot, 20-pound test monofilament leader. So we can tell the people, let out line till you come to the splice, and we use green line with a pink leader most of the time. We always use two different colors, they're never the same color, so it's easy to see the color break. But we tell the people to let the line down so the knot is at the rod tip if the bait's fairly deep, or the knot is at the reel if the bait's up fairly high. And that way, every time you drop, whether it's me or the customer, we know right where to stop. We don't have to guess at how far down 10 or 15 feet is. So that makes it much, much easier to do it. And then when you get a herring bite, it'll be one of two things. Either it'll be a little twitching and pulling on your line, or your line will go slack. If your line goes slack, you have to wind quick until you come tight on the bait, because what has happened is you were letting the rod down, the fish grabbed the rig, the sinker was pulling him down, so he swam toward the surface. If you don't get tight on him, he'll tangle your rig up real quick, because he's coming up and he's going in circles and he's coming up through your rig and it makes a mess in short order. If you come tight on him, then you want to wind slow. Because if you wind slow, all of his buddies will jump on the rig, just like visualize if you had a dolphin rig with 6 baits on it. You hook one dolphin and keep it in the water, you could catch 6 at a time. Of course, you'd have some terrific tangles then, but in concept, it would really work. So you get stringers of bait. Now, if you let it go down or you start to come back up and you get little wiggles, then you just wind it slow, work your way back up. When you get to the surface, what you want to do, don't hold your rod way up in the air. Hold your rod down close to the water. Wind till your bead jams against the rod tip, and then lift the whole rig up and in the boat, preferably right to the live well, and unhook the bait and drop it down against Springer. I need a de-hooker.
Yeah. Big one?
No, really a bait de-hooker. But then you swing your bait over the live well and you take your bait off. Yes, sir?
Size and, speakies come in a bunch of different.
I was going to come, that was the next thing on the list, so right. No problem. But never hesitate to ask a question. The sabikis that I use, pardon the glasses, are Hayabusa S-068, A is an apple, E is an echo. And the rig that I like the best is a number 4 hook with a 7-pound main line, a 7-pound dropper and a 13-pound main line. And they make a lot of different sabikis now. They range in price from buying them for $1 a piece to buying them for $5 a package because they're fluorocarbon with flash thread in them and stuff like that. I need a bait de-hooker right now, sir. Thank you very much. But leave those right up there across the front if you would. I'll get to them in a bit. Did you check these out with Kathy?
No, sir.
Okay, well, tell her what you took.
No problem.
This is a bait de-hooker. I started to tell you about this sabiki rig. Bear with me 1 minute. I have tried all the different types of sabiki rigs. Expensive, cheap, green heads, red heads, all different colors and sizes and prices. And I only buy one size, color, and brand now. And that's the number that I just read off, or the model I just read off, and the sizes that I told you. And the reason that I buy them is because they work all the time. The very inexpensive ones work very, very good when the bait's really, really thick. So you put the cheap ones on at the beginning of the trip and you go out there and you spend half an hour, you don't catch any bait, then you got to throw them away and put on the expensive ones. We put the expensive ones on. We've got some cheap ones on the boat so that If the mackerel are real bad and the bait's real thick, we can throw them on there, but for the most part, this is what we use. This is a dehooker for dehooking bait. You hook the line. Oh boy, now we're in trouble. We got slack in our rig. You hook the line hanging from the bait and start to pull them apart. When they start to pull apart, you lift up on the dehooker. What it does is it turns your hook upside down and the bait falls into your live well. When you use a dehooker like this, you don't take any of the protective slime off of your bait. You don't get slime all over your hands, and you can work much quicker. You go up to the next one, you hook the line, you do the same thing, you do the same thing, and in short order you can empty your rig and have your angler ready to drop it back down. If there's 3 of you going fishing for the day, and you stop to catch bait, I highly recommend that one guy drives the boat and fishes for bait, one guy fishes for bait, and one guy stands at the live well and just unhooks the bait. That's the fastest way you can fill your live well with bait. If there's just 2 of you, then you should both have dehookers, and the one guy's driving and catching bait and unhooking his own bait, and the other guy is just catching bait and unhooking his bait. We made a little mistake when we were setting up for tonight, and I apologize for it. We didn't come up here with a rod that was rigged up. We should have. But if you're catching bait by yourself, or if you're half the team, you wind your rig up to the rod tip. You grab the sink. This is going to be a little bit too short. You grab the sinker with one hand and the rod, and you go down the rig and unhook the baits yourself just by hooking the dropper and pulling up on it and turning the baits over. And then when you're ready to drop again, you just drop the rig and let it go back down again. So if you're working the bait rod yourself and unhooking your own bait, you lift the rig up in the boat, grab the sinker, hold it tight against the rod. If you can flex the rod, it's better. Keeps the hooks away from it, and just unhook the baits and fire it down again. Now, yes sir?
You mentioned I'm a big fan of the tubes. You know, it's like they get so like screwed up and they get in your hands and mess you up, and I throw them in a bucket when I'm done, but you can save them if you ever use the Hibiki tubes. Do you ever use those?
Are you talking about the
long plastic
sabiki rods, or are you talking about the storage tubes? Yeah, I haven't got that far yet.
Okay.
Balancer, could you give that sabiki model number one more time, please?
Yeah.
S as in Sam, -068. AE is an Apple Echo. And I use a size 4 hook with a 7-pound branch line and a 13-pound test main line.
What brand is it?
It's Hayabusa. Hayabusa. And I can tell you that Dusky has plenty of them for sale tonight, because this is where I buy most of mine. Now we've got a sabiki rig on our rod. We got our rod rigged up with a 15-foot leader, and we have a couple of bait dehookers. And by the way, the ones that float are very important. If you have a bait dehooker and it doesn't float, you spend half your time diving into the bottom of the live well looking for the dehooker, or getting another one out because you dropped it overboard and it sank. So always get a floating bait dehooker. So you go to government cut, or you go to the anchor balls. You go to government cut in the daytime, by the way. You go to the anchor balls off of Port Everglades, southeast of the inlet, well before dawn. Or you go to Boca Inlet, preferably on the slack tide. Or you go to Jupiter Inlet and you fish on the outside of the inlet to catch your own live bait.